There's a moment in every great story when the main character doesn't know what's coming next. Not because the plot has stopped, but because the next page hasn't been turned yet. The air feels still. The scenery remains unchanged. But somewhere deep inside, in a place beyond logic, something is already shifting. Most people mistake that moment for being stuck. In truth, it's the space between chapters. And if you're here, it might be because you're standing in that invisible gap between the life you know and the reality you can feel but haven't yet touched. The quantum field doesn't move like a clock or a checklist. It moves like a symphony, layered, intelligent, alive. Right now, whether you realize it or not, that field holds every version of you that could ever exist. The one who found the relationship, built the business, healed, let go. They all already exist, not in some distant future, but in a frequency vibrating here and now. Here's the truth you were never taught. Manifestation isn't about creating something that doesn't exist. It's about aligning with what already does. That single shift in perspective can turn your entire reality on its axis. You've been told to focus on what you want, set goals, visualize, affirm. While those tools have value, they often keep you in separation. Chasing a future sends a signal that it's not here yet. And the quantum field doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your state of being. Not what you say, not even what you do, but who you are, vibrationally, moment by moment. If this resonates, it's not because you're hearing something new. It's because I'm reminding you of what your nervous system already knows. You've had those moments, haven't you, when reality softened? When something aligned so perfectly, you questioned whether you were creating it or remembering it. In those moments, you weren't trying. You weren't forcing. You were simply tuned in, emotionally, mentally, energetically, to a timeline already alive in the field. Yet most of us are conditioned to disrupt that harmony. We say we want ease, but live in resistance. We crave alignment, but operate from doubt. And the most dangerous belief we carry is, it's not happening yet. So maybe it's not meant for me. That belief doesn't just delay manifestation, it collapses the frequency entirely. Because here's how the quantum really works. What you feel is true now becomes the blueprint for what you experience next. Not because the universe is testing you, but because your reality is built by resonance, not requests. Imagine you're tuning a radio, you're wanting to hear your favorite song. Instead of adjusting the dial, you shout at the static, "Play the song." It doesn't work, not because the song isn't playing somewhere, but because you're not tuned in. The life you want is already playing. Your job isn't to beg for it, it's to match its frequency. And that takes more than positive thinking or writing affirmations. It requires the internal collapse of the old self, the one who believed they had to earn it, prove it, or chase it. It means stepping out of the loop of lack and into the vibration of already having. Because here's what no one tells you. The field doesn't mirror what you want. It mirrors what you are. If you say, "I want abundance but feel scarcity," the field reflects scarcity. If you say, "I'm ready for love but carry resentment," the field reflects resistance. But if you say nothing and simply embody the version of you who already lives it, the field has no choice but to match you. Because to the field, you are. You are the signal. And once that signal stabilizes, the quantum collapses, not by chance, but with mathematical precision, into the reality that matches you. That's why this moment matters more than you think. Not because you need to do more, but because the field is already listening. And the question it's asking isn't, what do you want? It's, who are you being? It's not enough to know the NɁI DUNG CHÍNH CŨA quantum field mirrors your frequency. You have to see the exact signal you're actually broadcasting. Not the one you intend to send. The one you're living. And that begins with awareness. Radical, uncomfortable, liberating awareness. Not of what's missing, but of what you're unconsciously rehearsing in your energy every single day. What's your first broadcast when you wake up? Is it the lack, the delay, the story of still not there yet? Or is it the version of you who walks through the day as if the desire is already fulfilled, even if the physical world hasn't caught up? This is where most people get tangled. They mix frequencies. They meditate, visualize, journal, but then spend the rest of their day thinking, feeling, and acting like the self who doesn't have it yet. That confusion creates interference. The field doesn't know which version to collapse into, so it just reflects static. Here's a truth that might sting before it frees you. The field isn't late. You're simply tuned to a version of reality that cannot hold what you've asked for. And tuning doesn't happen through force. It happens through identity. When you keep broadcasting as the self who doubts, checks, waits, compares, you lock yourself into the loop of what's already manifested. But when you shift into embodiment, the rearrangement begins. This is why nearly every spiritual tradition boils down to one principle: be it now. Not fake it. Not force it. Feel it real. And from that state, take action that's aligned, not desperate. Quantum jumping isn't an escape. It's emotional coherence, becoming so stable in the vibration of your new self that the field has no choice but to match you. The wave collapses according to the observer, and when your observation is free from contradiction, the shift stops being possible and starts being inevitable. So let me ask you, who would you be if you weren't scanning for signs? How would you move if your desire was already a memory? What would you choose if there was nothing left to prove? These aren't nice journal prompts. They're quantum tuning forks. Ask them, and you begin transmitting a new signal on where you stop seeking validation and start living as the outcome. And that's when the so-called magic begins. Not because the universe decided you earned it, but because you stopped feeding the old identity with your attention. Here's the paradox. The moment you no longer need proof, it shows up. Your signal becomes clean. The interference is gone. You're no longer sending "I want this" to us, but I doubt it. You're simply radiating "I am." And the field, neutral, intelligent, mirrors it instantly. You'll notice it first in small, almost unremarkable ways. People treat you differently without knowing why. Doors open that were invisible before. You feel calmer, even though nothing out there has changed, because the real change died. And that inner shift is the manifestation. Everything that follows is just reflection. Light bouncing off the mirror. Once you see this, you stop chasing shadows. You stop asking, when will it happen, and start declaring it's already mine. In the next part of this transmission, we'll break down why so many people feel uncertain or empty even after doing all the right things, and how to tell when the field is already reorganizing in your favor. But for now, let this land. What you want isn't out. They're waiting to be found. It's here, waiting for you to meet it at its frequency. The instant you match it, it has no choice but to become your next reality. And here's the hidden pattern quietly running most. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It shows up as hesitation, second-guessing, the almost yes you never take. It's the voice that says, what if I'm wrong? What if I look foolish? What if nothing happens? That voice isn't fear. It's the residue of an identity that hasn't yet caught up to your vision. And the part they don't always tell you in self-help books is this: that residue can't be overpowered. It has to be out-broadcast. Your old self won't let go without a fight. It wasn't built to thrive. It was built to survive. It was shaped by repetition, by environment, by emotional wounds and inherited beliefs. And the moment you start vibrating at the level of your desires, that old self panics, because your frequency no longer matches the reality it knows how to control. And when the ego senses its grip slipping, it resists. It clings. It finds clever ways to pull you back into the familiar. It calls it logic. It dresses up as caution. But what it's really doing is broadcasting confusion into the field. One foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. This is why you can meditate, visualize the right things, yet still feel stuck. Because your actions are aligned with your desires, but your energetic identity is still loyal to your past. And the quantum field, precise and neutral, doesn't mirror your efforts. It mirrors your essence. Think of it like this. You say you want abundance, but you still choose from scarcity. You say you're ready for love, but you still fear being truly seen. You say you want freedom, but you still feel guilty for resting. That's the mismatch. And it's not about blaming yourself. It's about seeing yourself fully, compassionately, clearly. Because once you see the contradiction, you can collapse it. The key is coherence, emotional, energetic surround. When your thoughts, feelings, and diction vibrate in unison, not once but consistently, the quantum responds. Not always with fireworks, but with real shifts. Subtle, powerful, irreversible. You'll notice it in how you speak, in what you tolerate, in how your body relaxes in rooms you used to shrink in how people respond to you, not because they've changed, but because your field has. And this isn't abstract. Studies in quantum coherence, heart-brain, synchronization, and frequency entrainment show that our internal state organizes external patterns. This isn't magic, it's physics. A heart in gratitude broadcasts a measurable field that influences matter. A brain in theta waves taps into non-local intelligence. A body free from constant survival stress becomes a transmitter, not just a reactor. So ask yourself, where am I still broadcasting? Contradiction? What version of me comes out when no one's watching? What belief am I still feeding with my attention, my habits, my doubt? Because the field doesn't just hear your highs, it hears your lows. It mirrors not what you say you want, but what you truly believe is safe to have. And for many, that's the hardest truth. They don't actually feel safe having what they want. Not because they're weak, but because they've been conditioned to survive without it. And to have it would mean letting go of the identity they've used as protection. So here's your invitation. Grieve that identity. Mourn the part of you that believed waiting was safer than receiving. Then, one energetic step at a time, Not into frantic action, but into alignment. Let it go. Because the moment you stop protecting the old story, you free the field to collapse the new one. And that's where we go next. The point right before this shift. The moment most people misread as a breakdown when it's actually the breakthrough. There's a stage in quantum manifestation almost no one talks about. It's not pretty. It's not full of synchronicities or signs. In fact, it often feels like everything is going backward, like nothing is working, like you're further from your desires than ever. This is where most people quit. They call it failure. They call it misalignment. But it's neither. It's the collapse point, the exact moment when the old timeline is breaking apart and the new one hasn't fully stabilized. You're not being punished. You're not doing it wrong. You're in the in-between. Quantum void. And in that void, you may feel disoriented, drained, even grief-stricken. Not because something's wrong, but because your nervous system is letting go of a reality it once thought was essential for survival. You're breaking free from the gravity of your old self. Like a rocket leaving orbit, it takes extra fuel to escape. Here's the paradox. The more aligned you get, the harder your old identity fights to stay relevant. Why? Because the ego can't survive in uncertainty. And the quantum field, the space of all possibility, is pure uncertainty. To the part of you that craves control, it feels terrifying. But to the part of you that remembers, it feels like home. So how do you navigate this? First, see that this breakdown is actually reorganization. Your energetic blueprint is being rewritten. Synapses are rewiring. Emotional set points are being recalibrated. Your frequency is rising, and with it, people, pattern, and places that no longer resonate begin to fall away. Not because they're wrong, but because they're complete. This is when reality tests your coherence, not with real threats, but with echoes. Old triggers resurface. Familiar distractions appear. They feel safe. They feel like home. But they're not invitations to return, they're invitations to choose again. To choose presence over pattern. Stillness. Faith over force. And you make this choice not once, but over and over, quietly, in discomfort, in solitude. You're not being asked to be perfect. You're being asked to stay loyal to your new identity before the evidence appears. Because the quantum doesn't shift when your desire is strong. It shifts when your identity is unwavering. And that leads to one of the deepest truths in manifestation. You don't receive your desire when you want it badly enough. You receive it when you no longer need it to define you. When you no longer use it to prove you're enough. When you simply become the version of you who would naturally live that reality. From that place, the field isn't delivering something new. It's just reflecting who you already are vibrationally. And in practice, that means this: sit with the discomfort without calling it failure. Hold your frequency when the external doesn't match yet. Trust the collapse, because only when the old dissolves can the new take form. That's when the subtle shifts begin. If you'd like, I can now rewrite the next section so it flows as one seamless US English optimized script you can directly paste into your YouTube production workflow. Do you want me to continue that way? You speak differently. You breathe deeper. You notice signs you used to overlook. You take aligned action without overthinking. You stop forcing and things start flowing. Not because the universe suddenly shifted, but because you did. Here's a practice for this stage. When doubt appears, don't wrestle with it. Witness it. Bless it. Say aloud, "This is the part of me that's dying so the real me can rise." When you name the echo, it loses its grip. You're not collapsing, you're shedding. You're not lost, you're in transit. This is the threshold of the quantum jump, where you stop identifying as the one who needs to attract the thing, and instead live as the version who already has it. Once that clicks into place, the field shifts. Reality bends. Time rearranges. Write in the comments, "I am." Not as a cute phrase, but as a frequency. It's your vibrational declaration that even inside the void, you are no longer waiting. You are becoming. And the field is listening. When you cross that collapse threshold, something strange happens. A deep calm begins to reign. Not because the external has caught up, but because the internal no longer demands it. This is coherence. This is stabilization. It's when your frequency stops seeking confirmation and starts radiating conviction. And when that happens, the field doesn't reward you, it mirrors you. But even in this sacred space, many stumble not for lack of desire, but for lack of sustaining the frequency they've touched. And that's the difference between a temporary shift and lasting transformation. Sustaining a frequency isn't about perfection, it's about returning again and again. It's building energetic endurance. Like tuning an instrument, if you only tune a violin once, it may sound perfect for a while, but over time, with pressure and use, it drifts. The strings loosen, the tone wavers. Unless you retune, clarity is lost. Your frequency works the same way. You might hit a peak alignment through meditation, gratitude, or visioning, but life keeps moving. People test you. Emotions surge. Doubts whisper. Without conscious retuning, you drift. So, how do you stay in tune? It begins with frequency, hygiene. Just as you brush your teeth daily, you care for your energy daily. Not obsessively, but in relationship with it. Ask yourself, what am I consuming? What am I rehearsing internally? What am I tolerating that contradicts my chosen timeline? Your thoughts aren't neutral, they're instructions. Your focus isn't random, it's a prerogative. Your self-talk isn't private, it's a signal. If your inner world doesn't match your desired reality, you're not manifesting, you're memorizing the past. Here's the quantum truth. The field responds not just to energy, but to consistent energy. The vibrational signature you reinforce, layer, repeat. A weak radio signal comes and goes. A strong, steady signal cuts through static. It doesn't waver. Your desires aren't waiting for intensity, they're waiting for coherence. Can you hold the signal, even when reality hasn't caught up? Most give up here, not because they failed, but because they stopped broadcasting. They looked for proof, saw none, and assumed nothing was happening. But manifestation isn't like planting a seed and watching it sprout in real time. It's like planting in a dimension where time behaves differently, where the harvest already exists. But you must walk the corridor of alignment to meet it. That corridor is built from daily choices, choosing your station with every reaction, every emotion, every word you speak, every boundary you uphold, every time you remember who you are instead of who you used to be. Remembering your new self isn't denial of the Presentes, it's the creation of the next present. That's how reality shifts, not by fixing the old scene, but by outgrowing it vibrationally. Stay in frequency long enough, and the old chapter simply stops being compatible. It fades, not with drama, but with disinterest. One day you realize the thing you used to beg for, you now expect. The energy you used to reach for, you now radiate. And when that happens, the quantum doesn't just respond, it realigns. The people, opportunities, timing, they didn't appear by luck. They were always there. You simply tuned into the version of reality where they could exist. So if you're in that in-between space, where the old feels faded, but the new hasn't fully landed, know this: you're not stuck. You're stabilizing. And the more you return to your chosen frequency, the faster the field locks in your new trajectory. This isn't magic. It's physics. Consciousness collapses possibility, and coherence locks it in. In the final step of this journey, we'll explore what it means to live from the quantum, where you stop manifesting and simply embody the version of you who already has it. You'll see that manifestation was never about pulling something in from the outside. It was always about remembering the part of you already living it. And when you live from that state consistently, not occasionally, not conditionally, you erase the line between desire and reality. What you desire isn't summoned, it's matched. What you long for isn't requested. It's remembered. This is the final leap in quantum manifestation. You stop trying to manifest because you've become the living evidence of the field's response. Think about it. A magnet doesn't try to attract. It simply is. A tuning fork doesn't beg to resonate. It just does. The sun doesn't explain its warmth. It radiates. When you live as the version of yourself who already has, already knows, already vibrates, you become a living field of coherence. The quantum responds not because you're demanding, but because you're aligned. This is why ancient spiritual wisdom has always taught that surrender isn't weakness, it's the doorway to power. In surrender, you release resistance. You loosen your grip on the how. You stop performing for the universe and start collaborating with it. You stop broadcasting effort and start broadcasting essence. From this place, manifestation becomes less about asking and more about receiving. Less about proving and more about allowing. You don't hustle for worthiness, you rest in it. You don't monitor results, you trust momentum. You don't chase timing, you become timeless. And here's the beauty. This state isn't reserved for monks or mystics. It's available to you right now, in the ordinary sacred breath you're taking, in the choice to let go of, needing, and step into knowing. In the moment you stop, defining yourself by your past and start creating from the field of infinite potential. But here's the truth you'll forget. We all do. You'll have days when the old identity resurfaces, when doubt feels louder than destiny, when nothing seems to be shifting. And that's okay. Forgetting doesn't erase the shift. It simply invites you to remember again. With each remembering, your signal grows stronger. Your identity becomes clearer. Your alignment turns magnetic. That's why we're here, not just to speak or teach, but to build a resonance field with you. A space where your frequency can stabilize, where your remembering is supported, where you're not just watching transformation, you're becoming it. So as we close this journey, take a breath and feel this truth. Everything you want already exists in the quantum field. It's not waiting to be created. It's waiting to be recognized, matched, lived. You are the bridge. You are the conduit. You are the field. Comment below. I am. If you're ready to collapse the illusion of distance and embody the version of you who already holds it all, let that phrase be your alignment anchor, your declaration to the universe, your invitation for reality to meet you at your frequency. And if something in you stirred, opened, or aligned during this transmission, know this. This isn't the end. It's a recalibration, a continuation. And you're not meant to walk it alone. Subscribe, not just for more content, but to deepen your coherence with every story, every teaching, every transmission we share here. You've stepped into the field. Now let the field respond.